Hi everyone, and welcome to our first podcast interview here on the Farm Uni YouTube channel. So today I am welcomed by Alireza Zarai, who is the CEO of Zaman Farmer Support, who is the proud sponsor and mother company of Farm Uni. And we're going to have a discussion today about how young professionals fail in the life sciences industry and how we can support them to get a better step up into the industry. But before we dive into that, Alireza, what I'd love to know is a bit about you and your history in the industry.
Hello guys, my name is Ali. I'm the founder of Zaman Farmer Support, our proud startup. I started in the industry in 2005, basically, when I started the German Ausbildung in a laboratory. And I worked in a cosmetic industry. Then I worked in a laboratory for cosmetic release analytics. Then I moved 2010 to Roche in Basel, Switzerland, to work in a so-called oncological release laboratory. We produced and analyzed the products of Roche and released them for the market, which are mainly cancer products or anti-cancer products, so to say. And then I went to the global project management in Roche within the global supply chain. In 2014, I decided to move back to Germany, which I did. Then I founded a laboratory in Germany.
Yes, you did. Lampertheim.
In Lampertheim, the center of the world for water analytics. And then I got hunted by headhunters through my professional LinkedIn. And in Germany, we have Xing accounts. And I started working as a freelancer for global quality management system. And fast forward several years, I founded a company and we are now around 50 employees globally, focusing on life science, compliance, technology, and software.
Wow. He has a very extensive history, I think, going well back. Question I want to ask you first is, when you stepped into the industry, when you were fresh, in that first kind of role that you had, what was the thing that shocked you the most about stepping into the industry?
Everything, because I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like, you must read SOPs, you must know what is global complaint management, what is a pharmaceutical complaint officer, and what is the difference to a local pharmaceutical complaint officer, for example.
Versus the global.
Yeah, quality management systems. What is the deviation process? Why it is in place? What is an audit? Why do we have self-inspection? Why do we have supplier qualification? Oh my Jesus Christ.
That's pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, it was a lot, many topics, a lot to digest. And I'm still not sure if I'm at the right spot here, if I really understand everything. But I got a bit better by now, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think after the years of experience you have and all the clients that you've worked with from like BioNTech, Sanofi, because I know you are working with those guys at the moment in the consultancy part of the company, that you have a pretty fair idea of what's going on. And during the progress of your career as well, like, you know, stepping in fresh, having kind of no idea about the industry and how overwhelming that can be to have to get up to speed on pretty much everything that is the industry. What would you think that if someone has a desire to step into the industry who might be coming from an academic background, what do you think is the biggest failure that they make first stepping into the industry?
Well, their failure starts with the failure of the company that hires them. Normally, that companies hire people for a certain position which they're completely unqualified for. And then, of course, this leads to a lot of unsure acting and unsure, let's say, behavior of the employee that wants to do its very best, but is completely wrong at the position they have. We see this a lot in many companies. We work with big pharma and medium-sized companies throughout the whole Germany. And one thing I realized is that you have qualified people, but they sit in wrong positions. Because the qualified people themselves had actually no idea what this certain position was meant for, or what the job description actually meant, what they have to do. They didn't know. They can read it. They think they have an idea, and they figure out very quickly they have no idea. Still, they want to do their very best, and most of the time, because the regulations are so clear and the guidelines are so clear, this leads to a very unpleasant situation for the company, for the project and the employee, because everybody knows something is not fitting here. Yeah.
So would you say like companies sometimes when they're hiring new recruits, particularly if they're straight out of academia or if they don't have any professional experience, kind of have these false expectations that they're coming in with a skill set that they don't actually have?
Yeah, this is the big point we have, right? There is academic know-how and there is industry know-how. And the industry know-how can only be learned in the industry. That's it. It's like you will not learn in a university how a certain type of supply chain really works on a practical level, like how a company actually has to qualify a company and what paperwork is involved, what procedures are involved, what are the little details you have to look for. And you can learn certain things only in the industry. And people come from the academic background, which is great. They're so smart, but yet they get mostly big positions with a lot of responsibility and have no idea what is happening around them. We're never part of an international project team, don't know the basics about communications, don't know intercultural, let's say, relationships and little details you need to consider. If you deal with a Japanese culture, Russian culture, South American culture, it's all different. And these are the things that, soft skills basically, that are also challenging.
Yeah, particularly when you're talking about global supply chains, that if you are thrust into a position at a very early stage in your career where you have a big responsibility for, as an example, producing a product or doing R&D on something, and there's many moving parts from different countries, that cultural aspect or cultural context is very important to factor in, but it's not something that I think is taught in university, and it's also often not taught in companies as well as part of the standard kind of qualification and training that they do. So in that, when we're talking about new recruits, not really having that experience and having false expectations from companies and people coming into the industry with maybe their own false expectations, how does that impact on a company and things like their operational excellence?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And that's the biggest hidden cost pain that companies cannot measure, but that is hurting them really so much. So, for example, if I had a project manager in one of the past service contracts we had, and the project manager had 2 master degrees, seems really qualified, right? One in biotechnology, one in veterinarian, like animal health topics. And so she was very qualified on paper, but she never had to do really with a group of people, and she never had to do with industry projects and over-continental project management or intercontinental project management. And she received, as a first assignment, a global project lead position. So great that you are early 30 and have these 2 master degrees, but you're a rookie. You must calm your ego. You're still a rookie. And that was basically also the worst experience I ever had in the industry, which was like, she would scream at people in a multi-billion-dollar company in meetings.
Yeah.
When people would not be here or when people would not participate in a certain online meeting, she would talk bad about them, that they don't perform. And if other people would be missed out, she would all simply talk back about that group. So whichever group was not there was the group to be blamed for. And as I said, she couldn't communicate very respectfully and radiate this calmness and stability. And the whole project team over many different sites literally had zero motivation. The company was wondering, why does this project take 2 years and is still not moving forward? Well, I knew exactly why, but I couldn't tell it because I was an external back then. And fast forward, she had to leave the position because at a certain point, everything blew up. And the company basically invested 2.5 years and millions of euros and missed all the goals the company set. And so everything was negative just because one person in leadership was at the wrong position and had no education, no experience or no education in the practical industry fields. And that's a huge problem for a lot of companies, and it's literally burning money.
Yeah. I think as well on that point is there's a really important aspect of communication and leadership if you are stepping into a role that has quite a bit of responsibility, or even if you're stepping into a role where you're just the head of a project. Might not be a global project. It might be a local group project, a team project. If you're the head of that, you have to exert that level of leadership. And also comes into that is the organization, time management, project management skills, having an understanding of how all the different departments operate together in this symbiotic way so that you can manage that project effectively. Another question that I would be really interested to get your insights into is around the interview process. So this is kind of a step before people have actually been accepted into the company. And what are the common themes that you see from people that you have interviewed? Because I know you've interviewed quite a few for Zaman Pharma Support over the years. For those people who didn't make it through the process, what are the common mistakes they made or the common failure themes around that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. We are quite focused on employee training, employee evaluation, and employee. Let's say we have created an onboarding pipeline, and so we focus a lot on actually the soft skills of the people, because on the CV everybody looks great. They are professionals and they're experts in their field. However, sometimes you talk to a person and something very, very simple, the person talks so fast you don't understand half of what has been said, literally. So even if you tell the person to talk a bit slower, just in 30 seconds, the person is again back in their old mood and has never learned to proper express their thoughts in their brain. Like what is important is speak clearly, don't talk too fast, and have the sensitivity to listen to your audience or check your audience also visually. Can they follow you? And many interviews we have, they end because of these topics, because we know this person is lacking basics in communication, and depends on the situation. Sometimes we are willing to build up these basics if the other skills shine, and sometimes we are not, because the position that is vacant is already too advanced. And sometimes it's just really understanding the other culture. For example, being on time to your interview. It's a very simple thing. In some countries, it's okay to be 2 minutes late, but for us, it's the first presentation basically, and it's already causing a bit of stomach pain there, so to say. Maybe a last example could be that we ask a person for certain information before the interview, and from 3 questions, they ignore 1. Why ever? And maybe we ask them again and they simply don't provide the information. Well, if it's already failing at that state, most likely we will not continue with that person. So it's the first level is always very, very soft skill based, common sense based, before we even dive into your CV and into your capabilities and so on.
And during your career, have you ever, as an example for myself recently, I had an executive coach, which was very, very beneficial for my own professional development and growth. But over your years of being in the industry, has there been anyone that you've looked up to or anyone that you've followed as an example?
Yeah, I had some. In every project as a consultant, you work in a lot of companies and you get to know a lot of people. And from every person, I learned a specific thing. Sometimes from one person over 2 years, I learned just one sentence that stuck with me. I would like to drop some names because it's a positive context, if it's okay with you. Yeah. From Jelena Laube in Böhringer Ingelheim, I once learned that you should never say, you misunderstood me, but the blame is always to be taken by yourself. I expressed myself wrongly. Today, every Zaman employee in our company is learning this. Everyone in the onboarding plan, You are not allowed in Zaman basically to say, you misunderstood me. It's always, I expressed myself wrongly, I'm sorry. This is actually what I meant.
Yeah, let's recommunicate this in a different way.
Absolutely, yeah. From other people, I have a lot of references to name here.
You work for a lot of companies.
Yeah. But I can just bring a very recent example, which is Dr. Christoph Eller from BioNTech, who is responsible for a lot of different digitalization topics in the company. And he's a multi-arounder, jumping from left to right and right to left as a single person, really pushing entire project landscapes forward and still maintaining a funny and easy mode and never really getting angry.
Yeah.
And just by observing him, I learn how to actually behave, like chill.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. Sometimes, of course, if something are a bit crazy and you're like, Jesus, really? But just move forward. Yeah. And well, I could continue like this. Maybe a last name to drop is Yuki Siveri, also from Böhringer Ingelheim, who had a very, very complex project on his hand. And I worked under him in his group, and he was just the most professional guy I think I've ever met. Always smiling, always having everything under control, always having the very simple right amount of advice ready for you. And just sometimes telling me,
little golden nugget.
Yeah, take your vacation, Ali. I'm like, yeah, I can't. I need to take your vacation. Yeah. I tell you now. And things like this are very helpful. And I have a whole repository of this shining example of people that helped me through the time.
Yeah, I think it's really important that when you are working in groups, regardless of whether you're working as a consultant or you're working in a company and you're a permanent employee, is that you really observe the people around you. And if you see people doing great things, having positive outcomes, having positive attitudes, doing great work, is have a look at how they're doing it. You know, how are they talking? How are they planning? How are they engaging? And really kind of try and be a sponge as much as possible and absorb that. Because I think there's a big saying in life, you're always a student and you're never a master. From the time you're born until the end of the cycle, you're always a student. So regardless of whether you're in an entry-level position or you're heading up into the executive level, continue to find people who inspire you and that you can learn from through the process. And in the last question, before we finish up today, what's some general advice that you would give to people wanting to step into the life sciences industry?
Well, of course, my most significant advice is go to pharmony.com and take the courses, because it's like the self-advertisement now, but it's really what I mean. We take all our experience from all our companies and projects and different perspectives, and we have created basically a platform where we provide German, global, Western industry know-how to the whole world. Yeah. And it's really, really valuable, especially when we later create the talent pool where we connect companies with the talents. I mean, this is a very honest advice I can give. Get the industry know-how before you work in the industry.
Yeah.
And don't just take any job to have a job, because you will pay a mental toll. You will pay a mental price if you are constantly pushing yourself but not achieving anything or not your own goals, because you don't have the tools and know-how to achieve them.
Yeah, just kind of going around in the mouse wheel.
No wonder people have early burnouts these days in this complex industry world where people literally get jobs with a lot of responsibility and they're zero prepared for them.
Yeah.
And the preparation can be today provided by coaching programs, other service providers that have similar programs, but you cannot learn certain things by just having a one-day classroom training.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need somebody really following you, being available for you, for your questions, to speed up your development program.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And look, we're not afraid of some shameless plugging here, because, it's really important for us that we pass on this knowledge to everyone else who's trying to step into the industry, regardless of what level. But what you mentioned is that getting that information and experience before you come in the industry through knowledge transfer, Also joining some type of coaching program so that you can have an industry expert or a mentor who's already working in the field, the industry, or in particular job roles that you have, so that you can bounce those ideas, you can deep dive, you can network, and build up that knowledge set that you have to really kind of make a hot go at it when you're in the industry, and avoid things like that burnout by having a job that you don't want, and not getting anywhere, not progressing because you don't have the knowledge and the skills that you need. So, Ali Reza, thank you very much today. For me, this was my very exciting first podcast interview. It's been a pleasure to have you today. I'm sure we're going to see more of you in the series later on. But
thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Thank you for being here.
Bye.